Thank you guys for tuning in to another impromptu episode of the Sit Down with Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics, as we discuss the signing of right tackle Trent Brown. Bengals have signed Trent Brown to a one-year deal. This is a move that we knew was coming down the pipeline. It was very much speculated the last couple of days. Got wind that he was obviously visiting the team, the whole 9 yards, but the Bengals finally get this one done. And it's a big one, to be honest with you, as well. But before we jump into all the discussion, make sure you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics studio. But man, this is a huge signing for the Bengals. You want to talk about bolstering the right tackle position. It does not change any of the plans to a degree. At 18, I still, as I've said before, leaving after, coming out of Indy, I still felt the Bengals would go defensive tackle if the one or two that they like is sitting there, or right tackle, depending on who how their board kind of shakes out. This opens them up more in the draft. And I think if you're a Bengals fan, you have to be excited about what the Bengals have done this free agency. I definitely feel like they got stronger in the trenches, right? Obviously, losing DJ Reader on the defensive side of things hurts. But adding a guy like Sheldon Rankins to pair with BJ Hill, still need to find your nose tackle. Good move. The right tackle spot was a sore spot. Obviously, Jonah Williams left a lot to be desired. But when he left to go to Arizona, it was a massive hole for the Bengals, right? So you go out there and you get arguably the best right tackle on the market when he's healthy and when he's out there playing and motivated playing. Trent Brown truly plays like one of the best tackles in football. So I think this is a huge shot. I got more I want to add on this, but Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Trent Brown, when you look at, this entire free agency, the one thing, the one constant, at least I've been, and we've been talking about is what's your alternative, right? For the defensive tackle, what's your alternative if it's not DJ Reader? And they went out, they got Sheldon Rankins, and they're still looking to add to that room. And when you look at the right tackle spot, what's your alternative, right? Would you rather have signed a guy like Jonah Williams to a 2-year deal? I'm good. Would you rather have signed a guy like Mekhi Becton, who they brought in for a free agency visit? But at the end of the day, Mekhi Becton is still a project. Mekhi Becton is a guy where you look at, his ability in the run game. He was not good in the run game. He has dealt with injuries. Or you go with a guy like Trent Brown, who's a proven veteran. Absolutely proven, Malik. He's been, at the highest of highs. And you just look at what he's accomplished at the NFL level. Yes, he may be, older than, offensive linemen like a Jonah or like a Mekhi Becton. He may not be your cup of tea because he's somebody that you can't necessarily build with 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road. But is that the worst thing if you're the Bengals? No, it's not. It's not, because you have to do whatever it takes to just build in the trenches, right? Build in the trenches, and it's about consistency, and it's about having something that is going to be stable. And yes, Trent Brown does have concerns, right? Trent Brown with the Patriots had issues with his weight, had issues with his motivation. But man, I just look at what he's accomplished at the NFL level, right? He's been playing at the NFL since 2015. He's had 8 years of experience. The past 2 years, he's played in 20 games or 25 games in his past 2 years. The dude is the definition of a bruiser when he's on the football field as well, right? 6'8", 370 pounds. You got a 6'8" offensive tackle on one side in Orlando Brown, and you got a 6'8" offensive tackle on the other side in Trent Brown. So yes, this is an amazing move for the Bengals, not because Trent Brown is going to be a superstar, not because Trent Brown is going to be necessarily the starter for the entire year. We don't know that. But you are filling the needs heading to the draft. And that's what it's about, Malik. Genuinely, it's about filling the needs so you head into the draft and you're not pigeonholing yourself at the offensive tackle position. So good on the Bengals. As of right now, you've got to add to the interior defensive line, but God damn it, you have filled out a lot of holes in free agency. And once again, we appreciate you guys tuning in, all the comments and everybody. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe for our full content. But God damn it, Malik, I'm happy. Trent Brown penciled in on the Bengals right tackle. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you want to talk about addressing needs, man. It doesn't get much bigger than what they have done. And one thing I see floating around on social media right now is now the Bengals can go BPA. Yes, to a degree. You can go BPA to a degree. What this allows you to do, it doesn't make you, say, hey, if a tackle's there, we have to draft the tackle now because we we don't have a guy, right? So you definitely want to fill that need, or if a defensive tackle's there, yada yada yada, the whole 9 yards. You still, to a degree, have some things to fill for the future. Just to be, transparent, this is only a 1 year deal, right? So we don't know how, we don't know what the future plans are, or what a guy like what Trent Brown is after this year. So you definitely want to make sure that you're secure in that spot. If a dominant tackle is still sitting on the board, I'd have to believe, whether it be an Amarius Mims, Fuaga, if any of those guys are sitting on the board, and I'll say this, if a Byron Murphy is not sitting on the board, or a Jerzon Newton is not sitting on the board, I think the Bengals decision becomes that much easier. But if Byron Murphy is sitting there and some of the other tackles that you like are sitting there, man, you got to think you go Byron Murphy. You got to think, because this is with the signing of Trent Brown, it basically gives you time for another year at the very least, even though he hasn't been necessarily the most healthiest, um, to address that right tackle spot. Now, with this being one of the deepest tackle spots, people always say, oh, this is a deep draft class for such, so on and so forth. This is a deep draft class for XYZ. But the problem with that is it's a deep class until you start seeing those names that you really love start flying off the board, right? So even though you might have a guy rated as a good tackle in the second round, if he pumps around, he might be a good tackle all in all, but he might be I don't know, the 64th guy ranked on your board, right? The 35th guy ranked on your board, whatever the case may be. It may not be, you might not be getting some of the upper echelon guys that you're sort of looking at. So this is an interesting spot, man. Obviously with the Tart thing, doesn't look like that's going to happen. And there's no true nose tackle that you can probably get to come in and say, you know what, he's going to be the replacement of Reader. Not saying anybody could fill that spot. It does shine a little bit more light on the defensive tackle spot, obviously, depending on how Lou Anarumo wants to use his guys, the interior guys this year. But man, I think the Trent Browning sign, one thing that it does is, I believe the constant theme since Joe Burrow has become a Bengal has been protect Joe, protect Joe, protect Joe. And to be honest with you, I feel like sometimes the organization got a bad rap. I think they did everything in their power to try and address the offensive line for the last couple of years. It hasn't always panned out, but you think about the signing of Lyle Collins, you think about the signing of Orlando Brown, you think about the signing of now Trent Brown. You've got to think that they are making a concerted effort. They hear the outcry, they see what people are talking about them, and they realize, hey, we need to get better at this spot. I think with Trent Brown, what you're getting is you're getting a proven guy. You're getting a guy who has won at the highest level, a guy who has protected the blind side of the likes of Tom Brady and has won a Super Bowl in doing so. We've seen Trent Brown be extremely dominant when he is healthy, when he is out there, when he is engaged. I think one of the best traits I love about Trent Brown is how nasty he is on the offensive line. His ability to get to the second level and just absolutely wipe out linebackers. He's very active. His hands are always active. And I was even talking to some people who I know who cover the Patriots, and they say the biggest thing with this guy sometimes is he motivated? Is there a motivation factor for this guy to be out there? And for me, when I look at Trent Brown, man, I see a guy that if he is engaged, right, he's not going to shy away from competition. He's always looking to get his hands on somebody. He's great at picking the blitz. He's great at switching off his guy to the next guy, passing his guy off. I think Trent Brown is a really good get for the Bengals at the right tackle spot, which I'm assuming he is going to be playing, obviously. And I think that Joe Burrow's a happy guy, man. I just think that they need to continue to add and try to leave no stone unturned when it comes to the offensive line. You still got a guy sitting out there like a Dalton Risner, but before we jump into even more of that, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have over 300 people in the chat. If you guys give this video a like and subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. Daniel, you did grow up sort of a Patriots fan, man. You did get to see a lot of Trent Brown. Talk to us a little bit more about what he's bringing to the table when you watched him.
Yeah, so he had 2 stints with the Patriots. He had, I believe it was 1 year in 2017 or 2018. And then he had his last stint, which was, I believe it was for 3 years from 2011 to 2023. And with Trent Brown, I think you hit the nail on the head. When you compare Trent Brown to other offensive linemen, Trent Brown is nasty. Trent Brown is a guy you don't have to worry about him in the run game. And that was my concern. Once again, and I hate to compare him to a guy like Mekhi Becton, but these other offensive tackles on the market, there was a real lack of nastiness. There was a real lack of being able to just hold your block in the run game. And that's what it's about, right? I point to, we went back and rewatched the Bengals game against the 49ers, and something they did really well in that game and late in the season with their offensive line, whether it was Orlando Brown, even Jonah Williams did fine, was just holding your blocks and getting to that second level of the running game. Because the way the Bengals, attack their running game, it's a zone rushing scheme, whether it's between the tackles or outside the tackles. You've got to be able to just hold, especially edge rushers in the AFC North. You've got to just hold your block. And that was something I saw Mekhi Becton struggle with. I saw these other free agent struggle with, is just holding containment, right? If you got an edge rusher, and your sole responsibility is to take Myles Garrett out of the play, let him go upfield. I saw many times where a Myles Garrett would go upfield and Mekhi Becton would just kind of shrug him off. You're not going to get that with Trent Brown. Trent Brown is a physical specimen, and just his I hate to say this, his size, 6'8", Malik, 370 pounds, that matters, right? Max Crosby, many other edge rushers have been on record saying, they've studied this guy time and time again just because of his size and his pure dominance. So Malik, when I went back, rewatch him with the Patriots, I remember watching him and just his downhill force, right? Whether it was running with LeGarrette Blount, running with the Patriots, how especially late in Tom Brady's career, it was just, hey, it was run, play action, run, play action, run, play action. And I think that's something that Trent Brown is going to have a leg up over these other offensive linemen, over a rookie offensive lineman as well. Because rookie offensive linemen, let's say they go out and draft the guy in round 1, most of these guys aren't ready day one. It's very rare that you get a Tristan Wirfs day one that's ready to come in and dominate as an offensive lineman. It's rare that you get a Penei Sewell that's ready to come in and dominate at the offensive line. So you get a veteran that somebody gets to learn from. Because if you went out and got a 24-year-old, a 26-year-old project offensive tackle in free agency, a guy who hasn't had much success, then you're in the same boat with your quote unquote starter and your rookie. But now you have a veteran, a guy who's been in the league 8 years, a guy who's been at the highest of highs, a guy who's had to block the best in the world. And I truly think that's what we're going to get out of Trent Brown is you're getting a veteran, you're getting his size, and especially in the run game, I have no questions about him in the run game. Pure nastiness, downhill, blocker. Very good spot for the Bengals to be in, man.
I agree, man. Again, want to ask you guys, we have over 300 people, close to 400 people in the chat right now. If you guys give this video a like, we're sitting at 49 likes. Remember, our all of our lives, all of our shows are simulcast as well on the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So make sure you guys give that a follow and turn on post notifications for them as well, for us as well. We greatly appreciate it. But I want to get to some of the questions here in the comment section. I want to hear what the pulse is on the Bengals signing Trent Brown. I want to hear from Bengals fans right now. So Daniel, take it away.
Yeah. So first off, I just want to go to one of these questions from a little while ago. He said, I forgot who it was, but Trent Brown, what would you say is the biggest weaknesses in Trent Brown's game? What scares you most about a guy like Trent Brown?
I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah. So Trent Brown for me definitely is just like I said, it's the motivation. It's just it really is just his motivation, whether it's, it came into training camp once, overweight, not truly in shape. That's going to be his biggest thing. But honestly, I don't really see it as being a major concern, right? As of right now, yes, he is penciled to be in your offensive tackle, your starter spot. But if you go out and draft the guy, it really lessens the load of it really being that big of an issue. It really does, because if you have a rookie offensive tackle, what's the worst that happens, right? Trent Brown gives you a couple games and you got to thrust the rookie into a starting role. That's fine, right? If you draft a rookie at 18, he's got to get some reps in week, in year 1. So Trent Brown, his biggest concerns, I would say, is probably just going to be his injuries. But that's something even I don't put too much stock into, injuries. You look at a guy like Jonah Williams, he broke both of his kneecap or dislocated both of his kneecaps. What's the likelihood of that, right? And I don't necessarily know if that's him being injury prone. So for a guy like Trent Brown, I would definitely say him being injury prone, if anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the motivational thing, obviously, you never want to hear that when it comes to a player, especially an offensive lineman protecting your quarterback. That's a concern, how engaged he's going to be, because when he's out there, man, the guy is a mountain out there, man. The guy is an absolute game changer. He's a difference maker in the run game. He's a difference maker in the passing game. And overall, I just think that he's going to improve this Bengals offensive line. And I saw a question somebody asked, you do you think, I think it was about guy Lucky, he says, do you think he'd be more motivated on a team like the Bengals? I mean, I don't see how you're not, right? You're talking about a perennial contender, a team that can truly win it all this year. If the chips fall where they were, I think we're all hoping that they might. It's hard to not be motivated. I wonder. I'm very curious if the contract is going to be incentive based. If there's going to be incentives in terms of play time, weight, stuff like that. I know the Patriots did that with him. I don't know if that goes over well with players. I know the Patriots had a huge incentive laden contract for Trent Brown. Um, so I don't know if they take that as motivation. I don't know if they take that as disrespect. I'm very curious to see how it all shakes out, how that 1 year deal is going to shake out for the Bengals and for Trent Brown. But I'd imagine there's going to be some incentives and slash quotas they need him to hit in order for in order for them to get the best version of Trent Brown that there is.
Yeah, we get a question from Hattie. He said, "Is Mekhi Becton on the table still? Maybe play him at left guard or compete for right tackle in the future."
I think they brought him in to be right tackle. I don't know if I didn't get any inklings that they were bringing him in to be left guard, but who knows, man? I wasn't told that. So
Yeah, I mean, they could go out still and sign a guy like Mekhi Becton, but this fills your need, because when you look at the offensive line, there isn't a major need right now. You can look to the draft for interior offensive line. So they want to sign a guy like Mekhi Becton if he's still in the market. Yeah, but I would be very, very surprised to see if Mekhi Becton, doesn't have any other offers. Slash, if the Bengals aren't just happy with the offensive line right now. I mean, I would be at least content, right? Content with the offensive line heading to the draft, knowing it's a very good interior offensive line class. You'll have your pick at guys in round 3, round 4 for the interior. And then at right tackle, you're going to have your pick at all these guys. Hopefully, I mean, you got 6 starting caliber, I would say, potential first round guys in the first round. So I wouldn't be too shocked if Mekhi Becton is not on the Bengals. Reggie, our guy, we appreciate you tuning in. He said, "Is Alex Kappa a concern at the offensive guard?"
no, not for me. I think that I feel like Alex Kappa is giving you exactly what you're looking for in a guard. Listen, not every single guard is going to be all pro elite, and I know it's like we want to clamor for these guys, but I think that you can win with Alex Kappa at right guard. Alex Kappa was, good enough to be on the starting offensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and won a Super Bowl for Tom Brady his first year in Tampa. I think he's done well. Is he going to win every rep? No. Is he going to struggle at times? Yes. It's life of the NFL. That's the beauty of professional sports. You're going to get beat sometimes. So I wouldn't make too much about Alex Kappa. He's not horrendous out there. He's not to the point where he's, Michael Jordan bad. Or anything like that. I think you can definitely win with Alex Kappa. I think he's a fine starting guard.
Yeah, we got a couple questions. Let's kind of just nail this down. We get a lot of people asking, is defensive tackle the main priority, or does this change the need for right tackle at pick number 18?
Um, again, I think it's going to come down to who the best player available is between the two positions. I just don't see the Bengals passing on Byron Murphy if he's sitting there. Jerzon Newton, that could be a discussion, but Byron Murphy, I don't know how the Bengals pass on him. I don't. This is a guy that definitely shot up draft boards. I personally like Jerzon Newton. I actually have Jerzon Newton over Byron Murphy personally. That's me. But it's I think it's that ability to do both, right? Because he is truly that um he can be that true run stopper you're looking for, as well as offering a lot up in the pass rush department. But when I watch a guy like Jerzon Newton, man, I just think that guy is just purely just disruptive everywhere. I understand the medicals are concerns, but I think if you get a chance to get a difference maker out there, I know some people in Bengal Dome are calling him Geno Atkins 2.0. Man, if you get a chance to get that type of guy, man, a disruptor, a playmaker, this is a guy you've been trying to look to get since Geno Atkins retired. And I understand the signing of Sheldon Rankins, the signing, still having BJ Hill under contract, but that should not preclude you from, trying to get better and addressing the interior defensive line position. So for me, I struggle seeing them pass on interior defensive line if one of those two guys are sitting there, especially with the addressing the right tackle spot. But I also could see a situation where you address the right tackle spot as the weeks continue to go and I start talking to more people and I get the more tea leaves. I'll obviously probably form my ultimate opinion on where I think they go. But right now, I think they go whoever the best position that BPA is out of defensive tackle and right tackle. There's a chance Byron Murphy's not there. There's a chance Jerzon Newton's not there. If that's not the case, then I'll tell you, man, if Marius Mims is sitting there, man, that's gonna be tough for them as well. You talk about pairing Trent Brown up with a right tackle of the future that you can have him learn and grow for a year, man. That would be huge, man. Hell, would you even put that guy on the offensive line, replacing a Cordell Volson because you want to get the best guys out there? Who knows, man? But the endless possibilities are great, man. Here's the thing I want to talk about too. I think that there's a potential for the Bengals to get that nose tackle or that defensive tackle that they're looking for in the draft in the second round too. You know, I've been watching a lot of tape on Chris Jenkins, a lot of tape on obviously Tavondre Sweat, and I see a lot of upside. I'm not as high on Fisk as everybody else is. I think the guy could get bullied in the league, but I definitely don't think that it's. I definitely don't think the story is just written, you know, with just those two guys at defensive tackle. I definitely think it's going to be an area to improve.
Yeah, and I think it is pretty not simple, but when you pencil it in at pick number 18, it's really one or two options, right? Just because the Bengals signed Sheldon Rankins and have BJ Hill under the roster does not mean that they're going to not go after a guy like Byron Murphy. Yes, Byron Murphy and Jerzon Newton are pass rushers. Yes, they can also stop the run. But if you have your chance at these guys, you look at like dominant defensive tackles that have gone in the draft, Grady Jarrett, Aaron Donald, all these interior defense linemen, it is so important to your team. And if the Bengals, we've seen them time and time again, load up on positions they're already pretty full at, right? You look at Dax Hill when they had two safeties. You look at Miles Murphy when they already had Trey Hendrickson. If Byron Murphy and Jerzon Newton are on the board, it is 1,000% a conversation. But then on the flip side of things, it's just looking at, all right, which offensive lineman do you feel like they can be a franchise offense tackle? And if there's someone like that on the board, you have the conversation. But we got a question about
It's funny though. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
The Bengals are in competition with us right now. They're doing their Trent Brown press conference just as we're live. So thanks, Bengals. Appreciate you. Messing, of course. He takes precedent of what we're talking about right now.
They are on it. I mean, the news just broke a little bit ago. So
he's in town, so it makes sense.
Go for Trent Brown being here. So we got a question. Someone was asking about Tyler Boyd. Is there any news about Tyler Boyd? And do you think Tyler Boyd could be coming back to the Bengals?
I mean, I think that he is a favorite amongst the front office. And I think that as you continue to go through this process, is there a chance for Tyler Boyd to come back the later we get into the free agency process? I think that there could be. Would I do it? I don't know. But for like a 1-year deal, does that make sense? Sure. I mean, if the Pittsburgh Steelers are out on him, as reports suggest, how some people in the front office are split, some people don't want him, some people do want him. I don't know, man. I think there's going to be an opportunity. I think there's going to be a huge opportunity there for him to potentially come back to Cincinnati. I just don't know if, it takes two to tango. And just with the understanding that if he were to come back, he would have to accept, a contract that is not to the value he's expecting, of course. But it's gonna be up to him. Hey, do I want to sign with the Bengals for one more year, try to get a ring or compete for a ring? I would say, and then try to enter the free agency again the following year. But he'll be older at that point, so you don't really know. But I'll never say never after Jermaine Pratt last year.
Yeah, Big Jim Slade said, Malik, do you foresee a more balanced rushing attack now due to our size of our right tackle? And I would even just add onto, what the Bengals did at the end of the last season.
I think that there's going to be an attempt to get better with a balanced run game, and I certainly hope that attempt fosters into success. They should be looking to get better there. That is an area of focus. I will tell you, man. I definitely think the running backs are going to be doing a lot more damage. I would say running behind this type of offensive line. It's a big offensive line. You mean to tell me the shortest guy on the offensive line is what, 6'4"? Right in the center, and Ted Karras. Everybody else 6'8", 6'7". 6'6". Like Alex Kappa's 6'6". Um, both tackles are 6'8". Cordell Volson is 6'7". That's a huge offensive line right there. And it's showing that, hey, they want to make sure that they make it as difficult as possible. And one thing that helps with guys like Trent Brown or Leonard Brown, they're so massive, they're so hard to get around. So even if you are quote unquote more technical than these guys, man, your life is going to be hell. And here's the crazy part about getting a guy in Trent Brown, who we all praise about his pass blocking ability. He's going to be lined up against Myles Garrett most of the time. He's going to be lined up against TJ Watt most of the time. So I think you got a nasty offensive tackle who fits the AFC North mold for a nasty and for a nasty AFC North division. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I think what you said that was very understated was the fact just the sheer size. I don't know if there's another offensive line in the NFL. I'd obviously have to look, but that has that sheer size. I mean, Cordell Volson, like you said, 6'7", 6'8" at both offense tackles. I promise you guys, you go ask any defensive tackle, go ask any edge rusher, they're going to discuss just how much having sheer size matters about an offensive line. Yes, technique matters 1000%, but having 3 of your 5 starters be 6'7" or above is a huge thing for the Bengals, especially in the run game. So 1000%, the run game is looking a lot better, hopefully for next year. We got a couple questions. Matt Moore said, "We're sticking with you boys. We can watch the interview after." We appreciate you, Matt.
Appreciate you, my man.
He said, "McKinley Jackson beef day 2." McKinley Jackson is a guy. I think he's on that 3rd-tier defensive tackles. I would look to him maybe in the 3rd round, but for sure, we're going to see. And Reggie also asked, what would you guys do with your 3rd round pick? We're going to see at that point after where you go in rounds 1 and round 2. Rounds 1 and round 2 are going to really dictate a lot, because if you go out, get an offensive tackle, get a defensive tackle, then you can play around with wide receiver. Then you can play around with the running back. So a guy like McKinley Jackson, I would not take him in round 2. I think he's got the prototypical size, right? He's 6'2", 300 something pounds, big. He would be your other nose tackle, but I don't see him as a truly dominant nose tackle. I watched, a lot of his film. He's got good pass rush moves, but he doesn't really move guys in the run game a ton. He's fine. He's good. I've got like a 3rd round grade on him, but I wouldn't go out of your way to take him in round 2. Big Ugly Skeleton, we love the name. He said, "Hey Malik, any rumors on any free defensive tackles?" And I know some other people were asking just about the defensive tackles. Do they go out, the Bengals, and sign a defensive tackle in free agency?
Wait, you gotta repeat that again for me.
Any news on defensive tackles for free agency?
No, they want to tire. I mean, it's slim pickings now. It's very slim pickings at the defense tackle position. It's going to be a spot where you're going to have to address in the draft at this point. It's going to have to be. Tyler Tart didn't work out for whatever reasons he didn't work out for. You can try to get a guy in here. I know there's some guys that I still think have some upside, but they're very lower end moves and they don't move the needle. So.
Yeah, Travis Schwaller said, any chance on Calais Campbell? Once again, I think it's the same thing. Calais Campbell provided a very good juice for the Atlanta Falcons last year, but the dude's 38 years old. He's 38 years old, and that's, once again, a conversation you have to have of, all right, he could be a good veteran piece, sure. But at the same time, would you rather go get a guy in the draft, who's 20-something years old? So Calais Campbell, I would like him. I think he's very productive for the Falcons despite his age. I don't know how healthy he is. I don't know, what his motivation's like at 38 years old. I don't know. I haven't even heard of anything about him seeing any visits or anything. But Calais Campbell, yes, I believe if you get him for a 1-year deal, sure, that could be good, but he's old too. Benjamin Martin said, "Is Brock Bowers still in play at 18 for the Bengals?" All right. Yeah, I think that pretty much says it all. We've discussed this, and we'll obviously discuss it on State of the Jungle. Offensive tackle and defensive tackle are the 2 positions that it's shaping up to be. I mean, you can look at a cornerback. You can look at a guy like Brock Bowers. Bengals seem content. They re-signed Tanner Hudson. You re-signed Drew Sample. You signed Mike Gesicki. I think there's a lot of potential for this tight end room, and to go out and draft a guy like Brock Bowers, who he's not even a true tight end. The dude is an H-back. That's the position he plays. he's a weapon, sure, but if you're considering Brock Bowers, then go consider wide receivers as well. And in my opinion, I don't think you'd go and consider either one of those, Brock Bowers or a guy like Brian Thomas. I'm not offense tackle or
But
defense
can we
tackle.
just talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
How could you be a free agent right now and see what Cincinnati is doing? No, I'm not trying to make more than what it is. No, I'm not trying to overblow it, but uh how could you not like want to like how could you not want to be a part of this? Like truly, if you are a free agent and you're seeing what the Bengals are building, how could you not want to be a part of this? If you're one of those guys that are looking to just get a ring or compete for a championship and you're on the back end of your career, or maybe you're not even in the back end of your career, but you're definitely not necessarily in your prime, but you still have a lot to offer a team, how could you not want to be a part of what Cincinnati is building? I don't know. If I'm an agent, man, I'm trying to get my team on the Bengals as quickly as possible. We have over 400 people in the chat. If you 500 people in the chat. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate your support.
Yeah, and I think you've been hitting the nail on the head with this, man. I think the Bengals, you've seen guys like Mike Gesicki who came out last year and said, I want to play with the Bengals. You've seen so many free agent guys that, just taking subtle jabs, saying, oh, love Joe Burrow, love what they're doing. You even, for me, the pulse of the NFL truly is you got to look at the draft prospects. And the reason why I say the pulse of the NFL, that's what the future is, right? That's what these guys are getting taught at the college level. That's what these guys are getting taught at the high school level. It's like you look at basketball, for example, right? Everybody before, when Steph Curry was getting big, shooting the 3-pointers, you can start to tell with the way, the AAU basketball was getting played. And it's the same thing with NFL. And the reason why I say this is we were at the NFL Combine and you were just, we were talking with the prospects and asking a lot of these guys, what would it be like to play with a quarterback like Joe Burrow? What would it be like to play alongside wide receivers like Jamar Chase? And a lot of these guys had high praise, right? A lot of them were saying Joe Burrow had the best quarterback season in college football history. Playing with a quarterback like Joe Burrow, they were one play away from, winning the Super Bowl. That's what J.C. Latham said. Amarius Mims said the same exact thing. Joe Burrow's an absolute dog. The fact that the Joe Burrow-led Cincinnati Bengals are making waves at the collegiate level with these prospects shows that they are truly making an impact on the NFL level. So 1000%, I think a lot of these free agents, especially we got a question about, free agent cornerbacks, are there any good free agent cornerbacks that are still out there? 1000%. And it's the same thing. You got to look at what's the draw to Cincinnati. Go play with a contender. Eli Apple did it. And there's a ton of veteran free agent safety or cornerbacks. We talked about Stephon Gilmore. We talked about Xavier Howard, who has a connection to Lou Anarumo. I don't think the Bengals are going to be too concerned about the cornerback room. I think they'll within this week or the final phase of free agency, there's going to be a lot of cornerbacks that they can grab. Even in the draft, you got guys in the later rounds that you can potentially build behind your young guys. But yes, there's a lot of free agent cornerbacks, and I think the Bengals are going to have the pick at a lot of these guys.
Can I be real with y'all? Can I talk personally? Y'all know usually when I speak to y'all, man, I usually go off of what things I'm hearing, and that's why I'm very like, to the point. And to my Judon's point earlier, he asked, "Am I feeling? I'm feeling a little bit under weather, man. My voice, I don't know what's going on with me today, but we're still moving. Me personally, man, I have a hard time passing up on a guy like Jared Verse if he's sitting there. That's just me. I'm not saying what the Bengals do. If we're actually going by the mode of looking into the future, man, I just keep thinking like, what happens after Trey Hendrickson is done, is gone after this year? Are you going to pay him, another 18, 16, 17 million a year? And don't get me wrong, he's playing great. Like, he's a guy you definitely want to keep, obviously. But like, you gotta prepare for the future. You have to prepare for the future, man. And I think if you have the ability to grab a guy like a Jared Verse, man, that's such a game changer. Such a game changer for your defense, man. And I think that guy's a problem.
And Malik, I think you're right. And this is the hard part, right? Because there's two different sides of it, right? There's what are the Bengals likely to do, and what are, what's the realistic option versus what would we do? And I like Miles Murphy. I think Miles Murphy has a lot of potential. Miles Murphy really came on strong at the end of last year.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, respectfully, Chop Robinson and Jared Verse, those two guys, and this isn't a disrespect to other guys even in the class, those two guys have all pro potential. And when we talk about best player available, you have to consider that. And like I said, Jared versus Chop Robinson, you draft them in round 1. What's the backlash, right? You're going to say, offensive tackle, they could have won a franchise offensive tackle, J.C. Latham. They could have won a tight end of Brock Bowers. They could have won, a defensive tackle like Jerzon Newton. Sure, yes. But you have to consider all options. And goddamn, if they were to end round 1 with the Chop Robinson or Jared Verse, you cannot look at your roster and say it is not a better roster than when you stepped into that draft on day 1. And that's the conversation you have to have. And yes, Malik, I'm on the same page as you. And round 1, we're going to see it. And if a Jared Verse or Chop Robinson are sitting there, it's going to be tough to really pass that down. And I personally wouldn't be upset because your team would be in a much better spot. Your future would be in a much better spot at the pass rusher than it was when you headed into the draft. Matt Moore said, what positions would you expect they make moves in free agency? Any sneaky positions like another running back or vet minimum running back? Yeah. I don't necessarily, I would expect a cornerback. I don't think that it would be smart to go out and get a running back, maybe a slot wide receiver, but at this point, you've pretty much filled most of your holes. I would go get a veteran cornerback, and we'll see you at the draft.
Jolly Mo made me laugh, said Browntons.
The Browns, and that's funny.
Browntons, 2 Browntons.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool, man.
No, that's funny. Yeah, well, would you see any sneaky positions, any more moves for free
Man,
agency?
listen, this is the part of free agency where it's a crapshoot, man. You're just getting those bargain bin people that you can add to the team, man. I hope the sneaky move is Dalton Risner. I hope, man, fill out this offensive line. That'd be nice. Because if not, you got to start thinking about, you got to start trying to work to bring back guys like Max Sharper. You have to, right? You got to start doing that because you need depth on the offensive line. I definitely think that, like, I mean, you're set in most spots. I definitely think I don't expect another running back. The running back I expect will be added via the draft. Cornerback is a position that I could see. What about linebacker, guys? There's still another need for a linebacker. Marcus Bailey's still floating out there, right? Is there going to be a spot where you are able to grab a linebacker that kind of like is still floating out there that you think could help your team late in the season if injury and all? This is where you start to fill out the depth of your roster, depending on how the contracts of Brown shakes out. That'll determine how much money the Bengals have left to spend via free agency.
Yeah, we got some more questions real quick. Some people are asking about Jackson Powers Johnson, and yes, whatever it takes to beef up the trenches. I'm firmly a believer of you win in the trenches. You win Super Bowls in the trenches. You win Super Bowls with a pass rush, with a great offensive line. Jackson Powers Johnson definitely has to be in the conversation. What I will say, though, is teams look at depth of positions at the draft, right? And how I would look at it, I see at least 5 to 6 starting caliber centers in rounds 3, in rounds 2, in rounds 4 that you can go out and get. And would I rather, take a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson in round 1 or go with the alternative of take a guy like Tanner Botolini out of Wisconsin in round 3? And I would much rather take the alternative because I don't think the gap between a Jackson Powers Johnson and a Tanner in round 3 is as big as the gap as a Fuaga and a 3rd round offensive tackle, or a Byron Murphy and a 3rd round defensive tackle. I don't think the gap is that big. A Jared Verse or a 3rd round edge rusher like Braylon Trice, I think that gap is huge. I think that gap is astronomical. Interior offensive line at this point in the draft cycle, I'm good off of a Jackson Powers Johnson, a Graham Barton. You can have the conversation, sure, but at pick number 18, you're gonna have a ton of talent, and I think offensive tackle, defensive tackle is where edge rusher is definitely where it's got to be. Travis Schwaller said Malik versus why I look at Trice if we don't go edge at 18.
What outbursts? I mean, I'm not. Did he get into an argument or something like that? But even if so, man, these guys show passion on a regular basis. That shouldn't be a reason why you move off of a guy. I respect where you're coming from, but I think Jared Verse is that much of a game changing talent, man. I want a player that shows emotion. I want to show a player that wants to win, man. I came away impressed with Jared Verse, man. Watching him a lot this year, seeing the way he carried himself. I think Jared Verse is a game changer. And I'm sorry, a little outburst isn't changing that for me. I think the guy's different. It's a dog.
Yeah, and just looking at, like you said, Jared Verse, very productive at college level. Somebody said Chop Robinson at 6 sacks, 1,000%. He is coming in as more of a project. And I just look at what he could potentially be. I saw, he was one of the best edge rushers, just his athletic ability, just his ability to he put offensive tackles in blenders. So yes, the production wasn't there.
Nah, Travis, you're good, bro. Don't apologize, man. We're family on the show, man. That's what we talk about. We talk about things, man. I understand where you're coming from as well, man. I just think that Jared. I'm sorry to cut you off too,
No,
Dan.
you're good.
I just think Jared Verse is that much of a difference maker, man. And I'm tired of grabbing these guys that are just like project guys. I think Miles Murphy is going to be a fine player. I mean, I really believe that. I'm talking about those guys we grab in like the 3rd or 4th round. Y'all already know who I'm talking about by me saying that. The 5th round and all that from these smaller schools. If we do get a guy later in the draft, and I understand edge is a deep spot, and this was told to me before, we're deep at the edge spot, so it's highly unlikely. But I just think that if you got that guy facing you, man, in what other draft class would Jared Verse still be there at 18 if he is there at 18? In what other draft class would he be? Right? We're talking about a difference maker, man, an absolute beast, man. This guy shifts so much coverage his way on the offensive line, man, to try to just stop that guy. He's that much of a difference maker, man. And just seeing what he's able to do, seeing that he's able to do it, the type of program he was at, man. You want to talk about transforming your defensive line? Yeah, like competition breeds success. If I add a guy who's a difference maker on at the edge spot and it forces other guys to get better or feel uncomfortable, then that's what it does. That's what it does for me. I'm sorry, but Cam Sample, Joseph Osai are not stopping me from drafting Joseph Osai if he's sitting there at 18. He's not. I'm doing it. I don't think the Bengals do it. I think the Bengals go in all likelihood. I think the Bengals go tackle because I think they believe those defensive tackles that they like won't still be there. In all likelihood, I think if Marius Mims, J.C. Latham are there, I think the Bengals should run to the podium. I don't know how I feel about Fashanu, the offensive tackle of Penn State. I'm kind of out on him personally, and maybe I'll do a breakdown as to why I'm out on him. But
yeah,
I just think that, man. I think you're gonna have, excuse me what I'm about to say, but the pick of the litter. Like I always say that, right? I think you're gonna have your opportunity, man. But I just think that, man, if you get a guy, get a chance to get a guy like him, man, difference maker, like absolute difference maker, absolute game changer. Jared Verse is that type of a player.
Yeah, Jared Gundler said Verse equals TJ Watt, absolute game changer. The criticism you'll hear of Jared Verse is he is not going to be able to do that at the NFL level, is to be that he is not a super flashy edge rusher. That's what you're going to hear, right? Because a lot of times, yes, at the collegiate level, he won brute force. He won bull rushing. He won by just overpowering offensive linemen. But God damn it, if you can do that at the collegiate level, that at least bodes well. Like that counts for something in my book. And Jared Verse is a guy where if I'm looking for an edge rusher, you also got to be able to have just play strength. And his play strength, his fundamental strength at the point of attack in the run game as well. I saw a game, I forgot who it was against. Maybe it was at Texas A&M. But Jared Verse in the red zone, that's what sold me on him, was in the red zone. It's not like he was just letting his defensive tackles do the work. The dude sealed off an edge, pushed his offensive tackle back in a huge run play. It was 4th down, 3rd and goal and 4th and goal, pushed the offensive tackle back, made the stop. And that's what I want to see. Can you make plays crunch time, goal line, 4th down, 3rd and inches? Because that's when you truly make your money. So Jared Verse, yes, I'm fully in on him. And if you go out and draft him, people may be mad, but you cannot be mad at the pure talent that you're adding. We had a question about Iron Man said, yes, go out and get a slot wide receiver. If not, just go get Tyler Boyd. You know what you got there. 1000%. Charlie Jones is, you would like him to be the slot guy.
Yeah.
But if it's about the money, if you can get Tyler Boyd for cheap.
But here's the thing. I also think that you stymie. Remember, Charlie Jones is an older statesman at this point.
Yes.
You kind of stymie his growth if you bring a guy like Tyler Boyd back too.
Yes.
But you also got to remember, Mike Gesicki is going to be the Bengals slot receiver this year. Yes. Like he's going to be the Bengals slot receiver this year. Like he is the de facto slot receiver. He might be quote unquote tight end, but he's going to be the guy getting those reps. He's going to be the mismatch that defenses are going to have to put safeties. You might even have Charlie Jones out there. But what I'm saying is, make no mistake about it, Mike Gesicki is going to be the guy that's going to be expected to eat up in the slot. And I think he's going to. I think Mike Gesicki is going to have a career here with the Bengals. I do.
Well, yes. And I'm not even questioning. And that's what, lessens the need for a slot wide receiver, because you look at the weapons you got on your team. Mike Gesicki.
Man, Pete Crawley's being crazy. He said Jared Verse equals Derek Barnett, another college stud who ate off the bull rush. Man, I don't see that when I see Jared Verse, man. I see a guy who has the upside to add to his rushing repertoire. And I think he's a game changer, bro. To be quite honest with you. I think he's better than Derek Barnett, in my opinion. And I think a lot because of the talent rich offensive tackle class and quarterback class. I think a lot of people, I think that's what's pushing him down boards. And sincerely, we thank you. Like, thank you. But I just hope that it does the same for some of these defensive tackles. Listen, it's getting to the point where I think that the first top 10 picks are going to start to be, I don't want to say solidified because the draft is always a crapshoot, but it's getting close to you knowing, or at least me knowing, of what teams might be looking to do. I'm very curious though, will a team that really respects and admires Byron Murphy jump up to grab him?
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I see it, man, I see quarterbacks going. I don't know if a Mims makes it out of top 12.
No,
I don't know if Mims makes it out. I don't know if Fuaga makes it out of top 15. I don't know if they do. And this is the part of the draft where if teams do that, right? If Brock Bowers lands with the Colts or, a team like that, like some people are expecting him to, what does it do for, some of these other guys, man? What does it do for edge rushers?
Yeah.
Because one thing about this edge rusher class is I think that there's not a lot of versatility, meaning there's not a lot of guys that could do both, that could stop the run, that could rush the passer and affect the game in totality. The guys that we rate higher are either pass rush specialists who people have concerns about their playing weight and ability to stick their hands in the dirt. And will that translate to success to the next level? So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I think the Bengals are going to have the ability to really upgrade their defense, man, here. I feel like they've put so much effort into the offense, man. And with it being a deep offensive tackle class, get your guy if he's there at 18. Get your guy if he's there at 18. But if there's a guy you're questioning versus a defensive player that you're absolutely enamored with, that you love, that you didn't think you'd have the opportunity to get, stop worrying about, because that's how you found yourself at the Andy Dalton situation for so long. I'm happy with Burrow, but we promised Andy Dalton we wouldn't draft a quarterback that year, but Patrick Mahomes was the best quarterback rated on our board. Okay, how stupid does that look now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you think about it. Don't go into the draft with any promises. Like, that doesn't mean anything, bro. If you have the ability to get better at a position, you get better at a position. If Jared Verse is staring at you in the face versus the offensive tackle you feel so about, draft Jared Verse. Defensive tackle you love, draft the defensive tackle. Tackle you love, draft that tackle. Don't go in there like, man, we really believe in the potential of, man, you should know what you got. You walk into that building every single day. You see that person practice. You see them on game. Like, if you believe you can get a day one starter and a game changer that day, you draft them. You ask questions later. That's just my opinion. I think that's what the Eagles do so great, which is why they're always competitive. They may not always win, and that's a bigger discussion, but their roster is impressive as shit. And I think it's because they're always looking to add talent to it. And I think the Bengals have to go about it with the same mentality. Screw the thought process of, we've got this guy in the roster. We believe in his potential. Because guess what? I could promise you, if Joseph Osai has a breakout year this year, he's probably going to leave the Bengals.
Yeah.
He's probably going to leave the Bengals and cash in somewhere else. Some team is going to be willing to throw that kind of money at him. And you guys are going to be like, well, you had a breakout year, but what did you do year 1, 2, and 3? Don't put yourself in that situation. You're banking on a dude's potential who might break out this year, but also might leave you after he breaks out. Don't let that be the reason why you don't get better. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And once again, you're crushing it. I mean, just your point about how the draft is, kind of shaping out. We got some people said, yes, I think quarterbacks will go in the first 10. Yes. I think that's how most of these drafts are going, right? It's as you get closer to the draft, quarterbacks are going to start going. Mm-hmm. You look at a team like the Broncos, some people are rumoring Bo Nix. Team like the Vikings need quarterbacks. I think we see at least 4 to 5 quarterbacks that get taken in the first. And then you got 3 wide receivers that are getting taken. So that's already 8 spots. Then you got at least 4 of the offensive tackles. I think Alt, Mims, Fuaga, 1 other. So that's already 12 spots. I think 2 of the edge rushers, at least 1 to 2, like Dallas Turner's rumored, to the Falcons. If it's not the Falcons, you're going to have your pick at a Turner or Verse. There's going to be a lot of talent that slides down the board. We had a question from DJ. He said, hey, guys, how would you feel about Jackson Powers-Johnson? We talked about this, but I would look at other positions. I like the talent of Jackson Powers-Johnson, but I challenge you, DJ, go look at these other interior offense linemen like a Tanner Bortolini in rounds 3, and you're going to be very surprised that, damn, you can get a starting caliber interior offense lineman in round 2, round 3. I look at OT or defensive tackle. Adrian, a lot of people are talking about Odell Beckham Jr. to the Bengals. What do you think? Is that possible, or would he want too much money? I don't. What is Odell adding? Odell would want to be a starter. Odell would want to get significant play time. What is he adding to the wide receiver room? Is he going to be a backup to Jamar Chase, a backup to T. Higgins? Odell's injury has had a ton of injuries. He wasn't successful last year with the Ravens, and what is Odell adding? So I don't know. I'm not on the Odell train. Grandmaster Yoda Gaming said probably Tavondre Sweat defense tackle is something we need more than wide receiver. Yes, defensive tackle in round 1 or round 2, I think would be huge.
Man, listen, this is great. This is great, man. This is a great spot to be in. Man, the draft is one of my favorite times of the year, man. But even more so this year because I personally hate going into a draft. Obviously, okay, I can't speak to like I obviously talk to people and I know things, but like I hate going into a draft with like this is what we're doing, this is 100% what we're doing,
Yes.
right? This is cool, man. This is a good spot to be in. Like, just to put it bluntly, man, and I see people saying like, oh, the tight end spot. Like, this is a team that passed on the tight end spot for all 7 rounds of the NFL draft last year, all 7 rounds of the NFL draft this year. They feel like they got a guy that they really feel like they could build something with Mike Gesicki. Guys, don't get too hung up on guys signing 1-year deals. Sometimes when you've been around places like a Gesicki has been or a Trent Brown has been, you want to make sure, like, because things that seem great on paper, you also want to make sure it fits. You also want to make sure it's a fit. And I think that those guys have seen a lot in the league, whether it be Trent Brown with the Raiders, whether it be Mike Gesicki with the Patriots, how he was barely used. You want to make sure you don't tie yourself long-term to a spot that isn't going to see the potential out of you. Listen, Trent Brown is a dog. Trent Brown is a proven winner. I definitely think the Bengals are still going to draft a tackle at some point. And it's just a matter of when and where, right? But I just for me, if I was the GM of the Bengals, man, or I'm sorry, the de facto GM of the Bengals, I personally would leave no stone unturned, man. I would do everything in my power to draft best player available. And I just think that best player available might be a defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
It might be not a corner. I wouldn't. Corner would be the one position I wouldn't draft at 18.
Yeah,
wouldn't draft at 18 because I think that's at that point you're stymieing the potential of not even potential. You're not even stymieing, but I think you've seen enough out of DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt to feel hopeful. DJ Turner left a lot to be desired towards the end of the season. Obviously, he was struggling. He had the rookie wall, but I think you saw enough of them to feel good about it, especially with the addition of Von Bell. You love what you saw at Jordan Battle. Man, like you've gotta feel very, very good about where you currently stand. So I just think that when the draft shakes out, man, defensive tackle, and defensive end, that's a spot that I'm looking at, man. And I just hope that I hope they're just not closed off to the defensive end potential.
Yeah, I would 1000% not be closed off defensive end. And let me just say about the cornerbacks too. You're going to have depth round 2, round 3. There's going to be guys that you can get maybe that aren't similar to the Alabama guys, right? You got Kool-Aid McKinstry, you got Terrion Arnold. But I went back also, I rewatched Terrion Arnold. He's still got flaws in his own, right? There's a reason why these cornerbacks aren't being discussed in the top 10 conversation, right? There's a reason why these cornerbacks aren't being discussed as a superstar cornerback because I don't think Terrion Arnold is a superstar. I don't think Cooper DeJean is a superstar. I don't think, I got to go watch more Quinyon Mitchell. He's probably my favorite out of the 3. But when you just look at what's the alternative for you, I like guys in round 3. I like guys in round 4 that you can get that have similar size, that have similar ball skills, that have similar attributes, that have similar traits that you can get to potentially build versus a guy like Terrion Arnold. And I think that's what the conversation comes down to because a guy like Terrion Arnold, he is going to go through growing pains. Rookie cornerbacks, very similar to rookie tight ends, go through arguably the most growing pains out of any position at the NFL level, just because the technique is so much they're so unrefined at the collegiate level. They rely so much on their athleticism. They rely so much on their pure talent, their pure athletic traits. That when you get to the NFL level, you're not guarding, you know, um, Arkansas's wide receiver three. You're guarding a former round one pick that's 28 years old in Devontae Parker that can catch any jump ball over you. You're guarding so many different types of wide receivers. These are the best of the best. So at the cornerback position, yes, I think I'm firmly on board with you, Malik. I'm good. Look to round three, round four. Somebody asked our guy Dylan McManus. He said if Latu is there at 18, I would not mind him at all. Let me just say about Latu, I'm not as concerned about as his injuries as other people are. I see a lot of people on social media saying Latu almost medically retired. Yeah, he did, but it was due to a freak injury, a freak hit. And Latu is a guy you got to look at. He's very similar to a Chop Robinson, if you like. You're betting on him for the athletic tools. You're betting on him for the athletic traits of potential versus a guy like Jared versus who's proven. So Latu's a stud. So
No,
yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Right.
I just think about it. I'm like, you. It's a lot of questions there. It's a lot of questions there, and I like them, but I think that the one thing the Bengals have done a good job of adding lately is guys that love ball and guys that that see ball as their future long term, and they fully embody it, man. And I just don't know. You just don't know, especially with a guy that has dealt with injury history. Who's to say you get an injury at the highest level and you might just call it a career at that point? You know what I mean? And you hate to knock the guy for that because he's extremely talented, but I just think that there are going to be other guys that are going to be sitting there. And I like Latu, but I just think that when you think about the offensive tackle spot, when you think about the defensive tackle spot, when you think about the defensive end spot, even, man.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Our guy Matthew Heitzman said thoughts on Roger Rosengarten in round 3. We actually just watched him a little while ago.
Like him.
He's good. He's good. He's I'm
afraid you might have to draft him in round 2, low key.
Yeah.
You might have to draft him in round 2, not unless you're willing to move up. The Bengals have 2 picks in round 3, but I feel like Roger Rosengarten was a guy that could sneak in the back end of the second round.
I saw a very quick feat. He's going to get boosted up draft boards also because he played at Washington, played with superstar wide receivers, played with superstar quarterback Michael Penix Jr. His film was very good. Like I said, quick feet, was able to move. I like some other offense tackles better than him. We watched Blake Fisher, Notre Dame offense tackle.
Yo, let me say that right now. Blake Fisher is an absolute dog.
Yeah.
He's a guy that I don't know why he's not getting love. Maybe it's because he's a standard right tackle, but man, we should be talking more about him. We should be talking. He should be getting as much hype as some of these other guys. That guy is a difference maker.
Yeah, I also think a lot of it has to do with the fact that his counterpart, Joe Alt, is getting most of the conversation. And we talked with him at the combine, and he was a good talk, right? He was, discussing some of his biggest strengths, and he believes, he can 1000% be one of the best pass protectors at the NFL level. I like Blake Fisher, round 3, round 2. Very good right tackle. Jared Gunler said, yes, Blake Fisher, thank you for touching base on him.
I would 100% draft him in the 3rd round. All right, hell, I might, I don't know if I'd do it in a second, but I think that guy, for whatever reason, he's sliding down. He's not getting enough media hype, media attention, but man, he's a guy that I feel very good about, man. He's a do-it-all, man. He's good in the run game. He's good in the pass game. He's just a big body, and he's always looking to get to the next level and just snatch guys up. He kind of reminds you a little bit of Orlando Brown, just obviously not as big from a weight standpoint.
Yeah. Stamina said Tart was reported as a bad culture fit. Any insight or details on this?
No insight. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this before, but he left Tennessee and had no real problems with Texans. It was mainly with Tennessee. Undrafted free agent, wanted a contract. They had major disagreements with them. I don't know if there's too much to be into that. Dylan McManus said, I'd love Max Melton from Rutgers in the 3rd or 4th round. I like Max, more undersized, but we talked about this guy, and a lot of people are high on him. I think we saw him at the combine, got a huge pop at the combine. Mike Sandstrill. He is going to be the draft darling for a lot of people, but I'm telling you, I'm so confident in him. And he's, you could say he's undersized, sure, but we were watching a game, I believe it was against Jaden Daniels, or it was either Jaden Daniels or the Washington team in the national championship. And Mike Sandstrill slot cornerback is the guy I would take over any of these undersized cornerbacks. Max Melton is good, yes, undersized, but definitely look towards Mike Sandstro, Michigan guy. Um, and you want to get some more of these, Malik?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, let's go. We got
perfect.
some time. We got some time. Make sure you guys do us a favor. While we don't do super chats and all like that. Only thing we ask for is you guys give this video a like and subscribe to the Sit Down with Malik Wright's YouTube channel and First Star Media Group's YouTube channel. That's the only thing that we ask that you guys do, and turn on post notifications. Over at First Star Media Group's YouTube channel, you get, so obviously State of the Jungle with me, you get Bengals on Brand with Joe Goodbear, and you get In the Trenches with the OG, the guy, Dave Lapham. So make sure you guys do that, because he's got some pretty cool video coming out where he
Yes.
goes through his offensive linemen, the offensive linemen coming out of the draft and who he likes and why he likes them. He's got that video coming out. He also recently did a sit down with newly minted Bengals running back Zach Moss. So Dave is doing some great things. If you want to catch that, you just make sure you subscribe to the First Star Media Group's YouTube channel.
Yeah. We got a question here. Some people talking about the offensive line. Who would you guys take interior offensive lineman in rounds 3 or rounds 4? Yeah. Actually, we already got some comments talking about you. Tanner Bortolini is one of the guys that I'm definitely penciling in. Like I said, interior offensive line, round 3 or round 4. I would rather take that over a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson. Real Bengals fan said, "Is it me?"
Wait, why?
Because just when I look at the difference of what I can get, I'd rather take an offensive tackle.
Okay, I thought there was, my bad. I interpreted it wrong. I thought you were saying like he was better than.
Oh,
him.
no.
That's why I was like, wait, why?
No, just the alternative.
Okay,
Just the alternative. I think like Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah.
If he's drafted, he's a good talent, and he can slide to all 3 interior spots. Like, you can't be mad with the talent if you take him, but it's just gonna be who else is on the board, and you're gonna have your pick of so many guys. So we'll definitely see. Real Bengals fan said, "Is it me, or does this draft feel more deeper than any other draft? There's good players all the way up to the 5th round." I think that's every draft, to be honest. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're going to look back on this draft in a year, in 2 years, and 50 to 60%, 70% of the guys that are taken from rounds 3, 4, and 5 aren't going to be good, aren't going to be starters, aren't going to be getting playing time. That's how the league works. But
Zenter Hive, we rise. Let's go, man. That's my guy. Zach Zenter. Listen, I know the Ohio State fans, they feel how they feel about Michigan guys, but there's a couple of dogs I just want to bring up real quick from Michigan. And I hope I don't mind. Let me, in the words of LA Knight, let me talk to you. That's as he would say. Zach Zenter from Michigan, love. Chris Jenkins from Michigan, love. Let me just say it again, love. Mike Sandstro, love. You want to talk about guys, difference makers, changers, man? There's a reason why Michigan won the national championship this year. There's a reason why that program is where they are right now and how far along they've come. I think that Michigan has some real game changers, man.
Yeah, no, Michigan. And that's something where you can't understate the pedigree of school that you came from. And you maybe don't penalize guys that aren't at these big top schools, but if they've played at these big top schools, if they are productive, if they perform at the biggest stage, the brightest moments, you can't knock them for that, and you can't understate that. Like I said, a guy, let me use, for example, Roman Wilson, right? Wide receiver from Michigan. You can say he's undersized, sure. You could say he's not, one of the most productive wide receivers like these other wide receivers, like at both LSU wide receivers, but the dude was productive in the biggest stage, in the biggest moments against Washington in the national championship, against Alabama, against these top name schools. If they're productive, you've got to bet on these guys. So a guy like Roman Wilson, absolutely love. Yes, Chris Jenkins, P. Crawley said, is my favorite. He could start this year on first and second downs. Yes, Chris Jenkins is an absolute stud. Stamina said, if Blake Corum drops a 97, I can see us going there for sure. I'm not the biggest fan of taking a guy like Blake Corum just because he's not adding anything truly different than a Chase Brown, than a Zach Moss. Blake Corum is a fantastic running back. He is, contact balance off the charts. His footwork is elite. His ability to make guys miss behind the line of scrimmage is very good. But is he going to be a power running back? No. There's many times where he got stopped behind the line of scrimmage. There's many times when defensive linemen stopped him, got hands on him. It's pretty much wraps for him. So a guy like Blake Corum, I think, could be a very good running back on another team. He could be a good running back on the Bengals, but I don't see him as being the complement to a guy like Chase Brown or your running back in Zach Moss. Somebody up top said underrated guy is Kendall Milton. I think it was Michael Judon. Yes, Kendall Milton from Georgia. His biggest issues, yes, he dealt with injuries, and yes, he didn't have the most experience, being a true workhorse. But if you're talking about a compliment that you want in round 5, in round 4, in round 6, Kendall Milton, 6'1", 220 pounds. That's what you're getting. You're getting a guy between the tackles. You're getting a guy who can just bulldoze over linebackers, can, one-on-one against a corner, forget it. See you later. He is going to run over him. So if you're looking for a more dominant running back, Kendall Milton's your guy.
Yep.
We got Jesse
give me
Ross.
George Holani. Give me George Holani or Will Shipley. People are going to know the name Will Shipley, man, out of this class. I promise you. Will Shipley's a difference maker. He's my favorite running back in this class.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I feel like nobody actually has a favorite running back in this class.
Yeah. And I think it's because it's just so many different styles. They're not a de facto number one guy. Let's use a guy like Will Shipley, for example, right? He's never going to be a 250 rushing attempt guy, but he could be a 250 total touches guy. And that's what the league is, shifting more towards, a guy who can, make guys miss outside of the line of scrimmage, can be a zone runner. And I want a running back personally that can do it in the passing game. And that's what you're getting with a guy like Will Shipley. So if I'm the Bengals personally, the running backs I'm looking at, I want a bigger running back, 5'10" to 6'1". I want a guy that can be the complement to a Chase Brown, a guy that can win inside the tackles. I want a guy that can do it in the goal line situation, because I think that's what the Bengals are truly missing. They got Zach Moss. Yes, he's a guy that can definitely do it. Magic One said similar size, Braylon Allen fits our backfields. Yes, Braylon Allen is a guy you can definitely look at, 6'2", 230 pounds. His shiftiness is not there. So you're drafting him solely to be your downhill runner. I think Braylon Allen could be a good guy. I really have questions about him in the passing game, in the receiving game. We've got to see more about him as a pass blocker. We know the Bengals really value pass blocking. So that would be my one knock on Braylon Allen is, hey, I want to see him, be more of a shifty running back. But yes, if you're looking for the bigger running back, Braylon Allen, definitely a guy to look at. Matthew Heitzman said, I like Cade Stover, but I don't see the tight end in this Bengals draft. The Bengals could definitely take a flyer on a guy like Theo Johnson, absolutely athletic freak at the tight end position. But a guy like Cade Stover, I just don't think that bodes well for the Bengals. These other tight ends are fine, but I want a guy that can break tackles. You want a guy that's has elite traits, because you're not drafting a guy who's fine. You're not drafting a guy who's a very good blocker, because you got Drew Sample for that. You have Tanner Hudson to be your fine tight end. That's why you re-signed him. You have Mike Gesicki to hopefully be a tight end in the future. But if I'm the Bengals, and if you guys are mocking any tight ends, I would really challenge you to mock guys in the later rounds that have the potential to be the Mike Gesicki of the future, right? That's what you would hopefully look at, a guy who has the receiving ability to just picture a tight end that can do it from the slot and can do it in the seam route. That's honestly what I look at for a potential tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals, is just give me an athletic guy who can go up and win a 50-50 ball.
So one thing I'm going to do, Dan, you can keep talking.
Yeah.
So for one thing I'm realizing is our we were getting a whole bunch of comments from the First Star Media Group's channel as well.
Yes.
I'm going to go over there, and let's get to some of these as well, because I want to answer some people's questions, but want to make sure that we're asking all the questions you're answering. So I apologize for that. So make sure you guys drop your questions down in the comment section, so that way we kind of get to all you guys as well. Somebody said thoughts on Javon Baker round 3. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Javon Baker, wide receiver. I don't know if I would go round 3 for him. And the reason why is I see him as more of a big body wide receiver. I see him more of a physical wide receiver. And I just don't know if I would go round 3 for him, just because there's a lot of other guys you can get at round 3. It depends on who's on the board, right? We've discussed on the show, Malik, you're a huge fan of Jermaine Burton. We've discussed Roman Wilson. These are more of the productive wide receivers, the guys that have shown, at these top tier schools. Javon Baker wasn't at a top tier school. If you're looking for a bigger wide receiver, a more big body X wide receiver, Javon Baker is your guy. Yes. I'm not the biggest fan of him round 3, just because, once again, look at best player available. I don't know if I would rather take a Baker or an interior offensive line. I don't know if I'd rather take a Baker or a defensive tackle like a Michael Hall, like a Chris Jenkins if he falls there. So it depends on who's available. I think you're going to see some wide receivers in round 4 and in round 3 that are very good. So were there any other ones on there?
No, just a lot of comments. Somebody called Cordell Wilson a bag of sand.
That's crazy.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Stamina said, just mark it down when Stover becomes the next Mark Andrews. I will kindly remind you of today. All right, Stamina.
Confidence. I love it.
Yeah, I like it. I like what you see. I don't know if I see Mark Andrews with Cade Stover. So, but I respect it, and you know what? Go with your guys. Somebody
go.
No, real quick. Somebody said Michael Hall. Yes, Michael Hall is 20 years old. You would draft him for potential in the defense tackle room, and you're drafting him solely to be. He'd be a 3-tech. He'd be a pass rushing guy. And probably my favorite part about him truly is he just shows effort in the run game. His ability to circle back around and go after running backs in a defensive tackle. That's what I want. We went back and rewatched Trey Hendrickson's film, at FAU, at the Shrine Bowl. What Trey Hendrickson put on film is something that I think that the Bengals truly value, and that's showing effort after the play. When the play is not on your side, show me a weak side tackle that you make. And that's something we saw Chris Jenkins make a couple of those big time tackles. So defensive tackles, that's what I liked out of Michael Hall. Show me effort as a weak side guy going out and making a run stop.
Somebody's asking here, what do you think about Braden Fisk? I mean, he's he's fine. I mean, I feel like he struggles with anchoring down the defensive line at points in time. You see him get bullied when you really turn on his tape at times. And I know a lot of people fell in love with him after this past week, but I just don't think that he's an ideal fit for the Bengals, if you ask me. Somebody also asked about, what do you think about Talise Fuaga at 18, Daniel?
Yeah. So I'm conflicted. I'm really conflicted with Fuaga, and you can't be mad about taking Fuaga, right? Because if you take Fuaga, you're betting on him to be your potential franchise offensive tackle. But at the end of the day, Fuaga was a dominant, and when I mean dominant run blocker at the collegiate level. And yes, he put on great tape against UCLA. People point at that as their main point of he can guard the best offense edge rusher. He can go against a Myles Garrett because he did it against Laitu Latu, because he did it against Gabriel Murphy. We're talking UCLA, folks. Technically, he looks good, right? He looks good. There's a lot more that he's got to do at the NFL level. So Fuaga, I do have questions about him in pass protection because he is just a nasty run blocker. We didn't see him go up against dominant edge rushers. For his competition, he looked great. And maybe I am being too hard on him, but he played at Oregon State. He didn't go up against dominant edge rushers. He went up against Braylon Trice, Washington edge rusher. Sure, that's fine. That's good. Fuaga is a nasty run blocker, and he's technically sound so far. But with these offensive tackles in the NFL draft, you guys are we're gonna have to see. There's another level at the NFL level. You haven't blocked Myles Garrett. You haven't blocked T.J. Watt. You have not blocked Justin Matabuke from the Ravens. You have not blocked these guys. So there's a lot that has to be said. Fuaga, I wouldn't be mad at, but it depends on who else is on the board. So Fuaga, I definitely got to see more from him as a pass protector at the NFL level. We got a lot of people. I think Jared keeps questioning this. Alinus Smith in the 6th round. I got to go back and rewatch him. I have not watched him, so I will write him down and we will come back to you on State of the Jungle.
We want to save some stuff for State of Jungle, which is taking place tomorrow, 7 p.m. live from the First Star Logistics studio. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate you. That's all we got for today, though, man. I appreciate you guys. We went live for about over an hour and discussed the Trent Brown signing, which is definitely a huge signing, literally and physically. And if you're a Bengals fan, you got to be happy right now with the way this roster is being built. You got to be happy about where this team is headed, and the possibilities are endless when it comes to the NFL draft. Nonetheless, myself, Daniel, the whole entire First Star Logistics team will have it covered for you guys every single step of the way. We appreciate you guys for making us a part of your what's today? Tuesday afternoon impromptu show to discuss the signing of Trent Brown. But until next time,